name is John McCormick. I'm the mayor of the great township of Woodbridge. I'd like to welcome you to Town Hall today for Opioid Awareness Day. We have some people from our Division of Behavioral Health in our health department. We have Gabby Pasternak, and we have Michelle Conway, and we have the former head of our Division of Addiction Service who's still quite involved in the township and all our efforts with mental health and opioid addiction. We have the great Dr. Bonnie Nolan. And now if everybody could work your way over to the flag, we are going to raise the flag now.
Michael was a loving son. He was a caring brother to Brian, Patrick, and Sean. He was a good worker. Michael had many friends. He enjoyed family vacations, fishing, sailing, and camping. Michael did enjoy life until he found drugs. Then nothing else mattered. Our Michael was taken from us. But we never gave up. We never stopped loving him. We never stopped caring. My last words to Michael were, "I love you." And he said, "Dad, I love you too." It's the only thing that keeps me going. Those last words. As parents, we blame ourselves. It's normal to feel responsible for our child's well-being, no matter how old they are. As parents, we feel an obligation to make sure our children are protected from the elements, to have a home to go to, a place to celebrate birthdays and family get-togethers and Christmas, a place where love and laughter is shared. And Michael had all that. We ask ourselves, what went wrong? Where did we fail? What did I not see? You replay every argument, every disagreement. You question yourself over and over. What did I do wrong? And I think the answer is nothing. We love our children. We care for them. We sacrifice and tried to keep them safe. But this terrible addiction was more than we could ever imagine. It created suffering, distrust, anxiety, and pain. And the pain remains and will. Not a day goes by or a holiday or a birthday knowing Michael is gone from us is heartbreaking and seems so unreal. I pray I wake up from this bad dream someday and see my son again. I love you, Michael. I love you too, Dad. And the only other thing I want to say is that thanks to Bonnie and the Road to Hope, gave us years of Michael's recovery and him falling back. But I do thank you all for everything you've done for Michael and my family. Thank you.
Our next speaker, Johnny.
You see heroin, I see low self-esteem. You see cocaine, I see fear. You see alcohol, I see social anxiety. You see track marks, I see depression. You see a junkie, I see someone's daughter or son. You see a prostitute, I see someone's family member caught in addiction. You see self-centeredness, I see disease. You see a pillhead, I see overprescribing of opiates. You see someone unwilling to change. I see someone who hasn't connected with the right people yet. You see denial, I see someone hurting. You see someone nodding out, I see God showing us that they need help. You see the end, I see the beginning. You see a dope fiend, I see a future success story. You see them, and I see me. I'm really nervous, like I'm shaking.
It's okay, we love you.
So I'm gonna give you a little back history. I'm from South Jersey, in Cumberland County, which is like 2 hours away. I grew up in a really good family. My parents are still together, no broken family, no horror stories, no nothing like that. I had a very low self-esteem my whole life, was in the psych ward, adolescent, a couple times. Then I started to mess with drugs. Went to rehab a couple times. I had a few years clean. Then I would go back. I had 10 years clean, and then I left my daughter's father, and of course I have no coping skills, so I wanted to numb everything. So I started to use drugs. I got clean again, then I married again. He used pills, Percocets. He fell off a ladder, he's a painter, and he shared them with me. So I was off to the races again. That marriage didn't work either, and I started my addiction once again, all over again. This time I went pretty hard. I had no coping skills. I had no self-esteem. Everything that I had was gone within 6 months. And I mean, my job, my mom took my daughter, my vehicles were gone, I didn't have a home, my marriage, my joy, my self-respect, everything was just gone. And I kept going and going. For a couple years, I ended up in Kensington, Philadelphia on the street, living out of my car and getting high every day just to numb everything. Because of course at that point, nothing was my fault. I have 3 felonies, none of that was my fault. It was the policeman's fault. It wasn't my fault, you know, it was the judge's fault. It was everybody's fault but Johnny Ann's fault, right? In that time I went to, I don't even know how many detoxes I went to. I think I lost count at 16. But I was in Kensington and I was IV drug user, and I did fentanyl there for my first time, and I woke up like 4 hours later with the steering wheel imprint on my head. Nobody even cared that I was there or knocked on the window or anything. Thank God I did wake up. But through this time, there were several times I did not. I remember doing the drugs, and then I remember waking up, everybody in a panic around me. I'm soaked with water, or, you know, everybody's upset. I'm on a gurney. They gave me Narcan, and I wasn't even happy I got Narcan. I was pissed. I was like, why did you do that? Like, now I'm going to be sick, and da-da-da-da-da, you know? Like, the insanity of this drug is ridiculous, of any drugs in addiction. So I kept on using and using. I overdosed 3 times and was Narcan 3 times. I don't know why God picked me. I don't know. I don't know why some people don't make it and some people do. But unfortunately, that's the lifestyle that when you're in addiction. Everybody's paying Russian roulette with every time they use drugs. So anyway, on March 8th of 2020, I was in Kensington, Philadelphia, and I nodded out at the wheel and I hit someone on 95 on my way to COP. Luckily, no one was hurt. I don't know how. I fell asleep on a major highway. Like, I don't know how. But, so that was my home. So I just lost my home because that was my car, right? So I called my parents, like I always do when I needed help. And once again, they were there to help me. And they let me come home for a couple of days. My dad got my car off the street, like, so I didn't get in any more trouble, you know. They gave me 1 night at home because they had custody of my daughter, and I stole from them. And I lied to them. And nothing I did in those 3 years was honest. Not how I got my money, not how I lived daily, not how I talked to my daughter. When I would go home, I'd steal from her. Like, there was nothing was sacred. You know what I mean? No morals. You didn't care about anything, right? And as a mother, like, you swear you'd never do these things. Like, all my I nevers came true. I said I'd never lose my child. I'd never do this. But the addiction is so strong of a disease that it can rip a child from her mother, and the mother doesn't care. Not at that time, because I stayed numb and I didn't think about it. I didn't allow myself to feel anything. So back to when I wrecked my car, my parents said I had 1 night to stay there, and I had to go get help or go somewhere else, but I couldn't stay there. So the next day I came up to South Amboy and I got treatment. I was on probation too. I have 3 felonies. Like, I had 11 POs because I lived out of my car and went to county every time there was a drug test involved. You know, and I ran to rehab. So I came up here, and 2 weeks later, the world shut down. COVID hit. So I had nowhere to go. In Central Jersey. I don't know anybody, anything. My parents wouldn't let me come home. Absolutely not. It never had worked, and they were done. They had washed their hands, you know, unless I got help, they were done. So I found an Oxford house up here in South River that I moved into. And I've been clean ever since that day on March 8th in 2020. So I have a lot of gratitude now, and I tell people, the first year I stayed clean, I just stayed clean. I just didn't use. And I started to build a network through NA. And the second year when I was clean, I started to get things back. Like, I had a car and I got a job, and, you know, my daughter, my parents, everybody was coming back, and things were coming back. And then this past March, when I celebrated my 3 years, I noticed that what I'm getting back is me. I'm learning who I am. I'm learning to love myself. I work in the field of recovery now, and I love it. I have a very good job. I have a very good life. My family is here. My daughter is here. They traveled 2 hours to come hear this, and I'm really nervous. But yeah, so I just didn't give up this time, and I just kept going. And I finished an outpatient program, and I did everything. I completed probation 2 years ago. Like, I'm doing things, you know? I work for one of the counties here in New Jersey, and then I just did the crisis intervention team training. Like, it was awesome. I was in the room with all law enforcement. It was kind of weird at first, but it was great, you know? So yeah, so that's all I have to say. One more thing I want to read, and then that's it. Oh, I did it again. Okay. Everybody has their own opinions on addiction, but until you've been there, you wouldn't really understand. There are some lucky ones who have beat it, but don't think because they are still alive that their life is gravy. They fight every day, all day to stay clean. It's a constant battle from the time they open their eyes until they close them, and it never goes away. Most are good people who just made bad choices. Battling addiction is a beast for the person addicted and to the loved ones who love them. So in loving memory of every family member and friend who has lost their battle with drugs, alcohol, or other addictions, and those who continue to conquer it. Sorry. Even though you may feel hopeless or helpless, I just want you to know, never give up. There's always hope.
I just want to close by thanking everybody here. I'm looking at this group over here, at Gabby and Michelle and Bonnie and all the great people, all our recovery coaches, and that's why you are here. And that's why you do what you do. This is just amazing, and I'm so proud that we have the staff that we have in the Division of Addiction Services, the Division of Behavioral Health within the Department of Health. I'm so glad we have the Domestic Violence Response Team. So glad we have homeless recovery efforts. We have a whole lot of things in this town that we do. And when you listen to Johnny, it all makes sense why we do it. So thank you for sharing that. That was terrific. Eddie McSherry, thank you for sharing. Thank you to all of our people here, exhibitors and programmers. There's a whole lot of great services and programs here, folks. If you listen to these stories and you need something, it's here. It's here. So please take advantage of it. And thank you again for coming out for Woodbridge, the best town around.